the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
We gonna drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
We gonna drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
We come to drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
This is a journey into sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new values, and a new experience.
Hans Charles studied cinema at the Los Angeles Film Studies Center and worked for Tracy Edmonds, Soul Food, Set It Off, A Bridget Davis, Sister Act 2, Have Plenty, and Patrick Ian Polk, Punk's Noah Arks at Edmonds Entertainment. Later, he pursued his MFA in film at Howard University School of Communication. While a graduate student, he produced his first feature, Like Water, then developed an eye for cinematography. He has shot for a range of directors, including Spike Lee, Ava DuVernay, Venus Versus, and Salim Akil, Jumping the Broom, Sparkle, and has worked on several films, including Entre Nos, Pariah, which is one of my films I love, Middle of Nowhere, and Mother of George. They've screened at festivals all over the world, including Urban World Film Festival, the New York City Latino Film Festival, Outfest, the Los Angeles Film Festival, the Zanzibar Film Festival, the Black Star Film Festival, HBO, and ESPN. Charles has been a professor of cinematography at Howard University and is currently working on BET's network New Television, The Startup. Hans Charles was recently nominated for an Emmy for Outstanding Cinematography for one of my favorite documentaries, 13th by Ava DuVernay, Academy Award nominated, and Best Documentary, BFATA Independent Spirit Awards. The next voice that you'll hear on Sound Bombing is my friend, my Haitian brother, Hans Charles. Brother Sakbase.
What up? What up? What up? What up?
Got my Haitian brother in the building. Man,
I gotta add some things to that bio.
Go ahead, add to the bio. I was gonna ask you because you know the bio somewhat changes, man. What you gotta add?
Yeah, I am Mr. Soul, a documentary by Melissa Hazlett and Sam Pollard, just premiered at Tribeca and at the AFI Silver Docs. Really happy to do that. Documentary with Melissa, and I produced a feature-length film called One Angry Black Man that's premiering at the Black Star Film Festival this year, 2018. So I'm really excited about that. Really proud to have gotten an opportunity to kind of produce, with a really great and brilliant writer-director, Melnick Lumumba.
Yeah.
And really excited about the things we're kind of doing in the future and in our approach to cinema and filmmaking. So in this business, you get really segmented. You're not allowed to do multiple things in this business. And when you're a cinematographer, the accounting designation is what's called below the line. That means all the people that don't have equity in the project they're working on. That's what a below the line member is. And the cinematographers are the top of the below the line. So there's actually a line in the accounting, and everybody below this line don't get no checks if this film becomes a success. Everybody above that line has equity. So that's the studio, the execs, some of the actors. And so you are segmented when you're below the line. You're sort of not considered part of the elite class. And so when you're a cinematographer, you're expected to kind of, it's almost like being a foot soldier in the army. It's like being, the highest enlisted rank, right? Is kind of the way they think about it. And so for me, becoming a producer is not about moving out of the space of cinematography. It's more of taking control for what I do in terms of cinematography.
So how did you break into the industry? So we're gonna go a little further back. How did you break into the industry, and when did you fall in love with filmmaking?
When I was about 13 or 14 years old, I saw a film called Straight Out Brooklyn.
Oh yeah,
directed by
Maddie Rich. Yeah, his sister lives in Baltimore, man.
Yeah, and I don't want to offend anybody that knows Maddie Rich, but I saw that film and I could see a lot of the mistakes in the film, and that was the first time that I saw film from that perspective. Before then, I'd always kind of just consumed it as entertainment, and that was the first time I was breaking it down. And so in the back of my head was this idea that, this is interesting. And I'd always been a huge consumer of media. My mom would say that when all she had to do is change my clothes, feed me, and then put me in front of the TV, and she could do anything. So I believe that I had been consuming that media ever since, I basically came out the womb. And then in college, my then girlfriend, now wife, had suggested I take, she was like, hey, she had this flyer for the New York Film Academy. It was like, if you're interested in film, you should do this. And I kind of was like, it's expensive. I really just made excuses. And then I got a chance to study at the Los Angeles Film Studies Center. And I worked for under Tracy Edmonds, but specifically under Bridget Davis, who was a vice president of Edmonds. And I was exposed to Patrick Ian Polk and Sheila Duckworth, who was doing Soul Food and was reading scripts and just had a sense from the business side of where things were. But I knew I kind of wanted to be on the other side, like closer to set. That's why I went to film school. And Howard University, their graduate film program, is really where I kind of blossomed, because it's the kind of film program that allows you to, what I call, incubate, which means you really get an opportunity to decide who you're going to be as a filmmaker, rather than the institution decide, well, you're going to be in this track, you're going to be in that track. This is what we think you should do. That's what a lot of other film schools do. AFI or UCLA or USC, they decide. They're very specific. AFI tells you this is your track, and that's it. So people who tend to be educated out of those institutions tend to feel like they can only do this thing that they have their certificate in. Well, at Howard, we were kind of taught filmmaking holistically. So we had this deep sense of the historical nature of cinema and what it meant to people of color. We had a deep sense of what the development of the technology and how that related to us. And then we had a deep sense of how each position and what it meant. And so you were sort of pushed to see every position within cinema as important, and that every person who was in that position is also a filmmaker. So the filmmakers aren't just the writer, directors, producers. The filmmakers are everybody that participates on set. And you were taught to kind of see those segmentations as kind of false, and that film was inherently collaborative, right? And obviously there was a business. Obviously there were opportunities. Obviously people want to make money, make a living doing this. But there's definitely a sense that everybody that you bring people to the set, so because they bring a certain expertise. And that's, Howard really is what changed the trajectory, because it introduced me to people that I'd never met. I mean, I met Charlie Burnett, I met Julie Dash, Raoul Peck. For years, I'd known Raoul Peck before a lot of people, before, I Am Not Your Negro. Mm-hmm. I'd known Raoul in his films for years. He was one of my early film heroes when he did his first film about a Haitian taxi driver. When he first got out of film school, and I remember it, was a big deal in the art scene in New York when I was a kid. And so Raul would come see Haile Garima here in DC. Oh, yeah. And I'd be the one to drive him around, bring him to Haile's place, if we were going to dinner, pick him up, take him home, wherever he's, what he was doing while he was in town. And I would get an opportunity to kind of speak to him, and that was a huge influence. So you were in tune at a very young age. I mean, you said I'm thinking about when I was 13, brother. I wasn't dissecting anybody's film. You said I looked at the Matty Rich film. Was like, I mean, I could see these cuts. So you already these weren't matching. You had something in you. But where did that upbringing come from? I mean, 13 years old, and you hear about these like young geniuses. I mean, my love for art, I love that. That's why I was so excited to interview you, because I love film. Mm-hmm. You named a lot of Julie Dash, Daughters of the Dust, Haile Garima. He and my Pastor Wilson are good friends. They own Sankofa together. So you naming some people that are very socially conscious as well. Mm. So did any of your upbringing have anything to do with how you were looking at films, and then the films you decided to work on? I don't think so, because my parents weren't interested in the consumption of media in that type of space. My father is a evangelical pastor and had. So they went unless you was he was Jesus Christ superstar. Or something. He was doing that since he was 19. I mean, I before the Passion of the Christ, I don't think my father had even seen a film in a movie theater. Wow. In a movie theater, maybe on television, but not in a movie theater. So the Passion of the Christ was one of the first films he ever walked to a regular movie theater and paid a ticket and saw a film. What does he say about your films? My dad doesn't really watch movies. Hold up, man. Dad, a preacher, he hated, man. He has a he just is not. It's not interesting. That's not his interest. I mean, he's he'll when we talk, he'll be like, "Hey, did you work this week?" He's interested in the fact that I work consistently, and he's finds it fascinating and is really impressed that I've made a living doing it. But
That's
he's not
interesting.
really, even this film, I'll probably give him a private screening, but he'll just be like, this is interesting, but he's not.
Now, you sure your parents are Haitians or not Nigerian? Because that's like a typical Nigerian. So you didn't become a doctor. You
I
didn't
mean,
become
my
an
dad wanted to
engineer.
become an attorney.
You like a loser, man.
My elder brother's an attorney. We have 3 attorneys in my family. So my eldest brother's an attorney and a constitutional scholar. And my sister she has her JD, but she's a political operative.
So who nurtured that gift, though? I mean, if your parents...
I think my mom, to a certain
mom.
degree, was like, she always wanted to put a camera in my hand. Like, she always wanted to buy me a still camera. She's like, I think you could make a living on the side. That was her thing, on the side as a photographer. She's like, I think you should she always said, I think you should open a photography studio. She used to always say that. And she was always trying to figure out like what kind of camera I could buy. You know what I mean? Like, so she kind of would support those things. Like, okay, I see that. But her thing was, I just want you to be able to take care of yourself. So I think she supported that. My father's thing was like, there are these careers that a person of color can attain in this country, and you should go after that because those are attainable and those will give you respect within the country, because the country only respects people with education. That was his thing. Like, he didn't have a concept of real racism. He thought he was being all the racism he encountered, he thought it was because he didn't have an American education. It wasn't until he saw things happen to us that he realized that it was actually racism, because he had made us follow a certain path, and then when we still found resistance, that's when he was like, oh, that's what racism. He just really didn't have a concept of it. He just thought it was a lack of education. For him, all the problems of black people was lack of education. He was like, well, the black people who have education, they seem to be fine. Like, it was just that simple for him. And in a lot of cases, it was that simple for Haitians. Haitians are really into respectability politics. So for them, it was just a matter of like, look, you got to find a respectable career. My parents were never into Haitian art. They weren't into Haitian music. They weren't really into music outside of the church in general. So there was no space for that. But for me, it was an escape. Reading books and imagining things was an escape. So it was just, that's just the way my mind worked.
So which film had the greatest influence on you? If there's one film, what film was the most inspirational and influential to you, and then why?
That's a really good question. I don't know if there's one film. I remember, I think the summer I was 15, the IFC channel became a cable channel, and back then IFC and Bravo were owned by the same company, and all they did, they had access to all the independent film catalogs, and that was their programming, like for 24/7, was just nonstop indie American foreign films nonstop. And I spent a summer consuming that, and that was like my education. That's really how I became a filmmaker. I was watching the purity of the IFC. I think the Sundance channel is closer to what that was. People hear Bravo, they don't even understand the roots of Bravo. Bravo was like even purer, because Bravo would show experimental films from all over the world. They would show behind the scenes from like smaller film festivals. Like my first understanding of the Sundance Film Festival came from an expose on IFC and Bravo. So those films that I saw, I saw Ang Lee early on, Jim Jarmusch early on. I remember seeing Not Do the Right Thing, She's Gotta Have It.
Now, did you critique his film too, brother? That's your Morehouse brother, man.
Well, She's Gotta Have It was such an experience.
Yeah.
The thing I most remember, besides that it was in black and white, but that wasn't a big deal to me. That made complete sense based on all the films I was consuming, was a soundtrack, and he had this reverb for the trumpet part, and I remember thinking, it had such an impact on me in terms of the content. And She's Gotta Have It just blew my mind away. Like, I just couldn't.
All right, so what do you think about the contemporary version of it?
I think it's great.
Yeah,
I really do. I think it's I think it's great. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do with the second season.
Do you know who's the artist? Who's the artist who
draws the stuff? I don't know who the artist is, but I know the cinematographer. Okay. The cinematographer is Daniel Patterson. Daniel and I kind of came up in the business together.
Because I look at and I love the of course I saw the first one when I was much younger, and then seeing this with the color and the image and the situation that and the woman, you know, using her body as sort of power, her this level of control. But the art and the color and the music really jumps out.
Yeah,
at me,
I mean,
man.
Spike
The
is
art, the art, the color, the music.
one of Spike's greatest strengths, I think, as a filmmaker, besides a lot of things, is just such a deep understanding of the importance of music to the way the brain is going to consume the images that he constructs and the way he constructs them and the order that he constructs them.
And that comes from his dad, because his dad is a musician.
His
right?
dad is a musician. His
Yeah,
dad's
so
a jazz
plays a
musician.
role,
So he has that kind of in his DNA. He has such a keen understanding of that. Like, just you listen to the music of "She's Gotta Have It," the television show, and it's just you can't imagine any other song. And there are TV shows where you don't even think about the music. You know what I mean? Yeah. Especially in television, where the music really is a proper throwaway, and Spike does not throw away music. So to me, Spike, that "She's Gotta Have It" had a huge impact. I was like, I want to make art like that. You know, and then, you know, Spike has been such a huge influence in so many other ways. I have a joke that I say that if Spike never says another word to me, if he shades me for the rest of my life, I will not care. I owe Spike Lee so much that he's allowed to treat me like trash anytime he sees me. Like, he gets a carte blanche, like, because what he did for below the line folks in New York is the reason why you have, you know, if Brad is here today, it's because of Spike Lee, period. There's just no question.
People need to hear that.
He would have never, there was no room for a Bradford Young if it had not been for what Spike Lee did those first 6 films, insisting that a union hire people of color, using the same crew, training those people up, taking people off the street, training them how to make movies as a crew. It just, you know, there are people in New York who are working class people in the film industry who can afford to live in New York now because they bought back then. It's because of Spike. It's not without a question. It's not even a question.
So he's done a great job of sort of passing on the baton.
I think so.
Supporting these young
Yeah.
artists like you who are coming behind.
Yeah, I
him
think
and
it's real interesting. He has a real interesting relationship with people on the come up. I don't know if that comes from being at Morehouse. Yeah. But
Shout out to Morehouse.
Yeah, but he does it. He'll put, you know, there's so many, Pariah. He put his name on Pariah, man. He was like, all right, look, I ain't got no money, but I'll let you use my name to executive produce it. You know what I mean? And that opened a lot of doors, and he's done that for filmmakers after that. Yeah, we're gonna talk about Pariah in a second, but we talked about how Spike approaches his projects. So how do you approach your projects? Like, what is that? Walk us through that creative process of you approaching your projects. Well, I mean, thematically, the stuff that I write. So the way I came into the business as a writer, I thought I wanted to be a writer, a screenwriter, exclusively. And I've discovered 2 things. I don't quite have the full discipline to make a living as a writer. And then secondly, I'm really curious about the moving image. So my partner and I started in film school together. And he thought he was going to be director, auteur, like cinematographer. So he comes in, he got the equipment, he got everything, and he realized he took one cinematography class and he was not interested. And he was such a conscientious student as a grad student, and kind of kept me in line, because as a student, I'm a terrible student, you know. But I was those first couple of years of him.
Dude, how did you get into Morehouse? You are terrible. What did you do to get into Morehouse then?
Well, because I wanted to get out of where I was. I was like, I need to get out. I was like, I got to get to college. You know, I was like, this is the only way. So I just really focused. I was like, all right, my goal is just to get in. And then I got in, and I just totally fucked up. Like, I totally like that.
So, because Morehouse was where I wanted to go. Let's tell a funny story. I look at my mother's check account. I look at my grades. It just didn't work out, man. I would have been coming in. You'd have been coming in when I was on my way out the door.
Man, I failed out after the first year. I had to take a semester off.
Wow.
Because I failed out. I was having.
And that's I'm going to get back to the story, but that's so common. My mentee, who might have been there, he's a little younger, Keon Giroux, and I'm sure he's going to listen to this. He's a minister now, but he went on, graduated from Princeton Divinity School. But his first year, man, he failed out. And I never forget, he wrote me a long letter about, he's like, Mr. Shields, I let everybody down. I said, brother, if you really want to go back. So he wrote, now this is unprecedented in Morehouse. He wrote a letter to the dean. I think it was Dean Darden was probably still there when you guys were there.
Yeah, Dean Darden was
there. And he wrote a letter to the president and they let Keon back in. But that was my concern coming from Chicago, going back to a big city. We talking 90s Atlanta, Freaknik, music.
It was a phenomenal.
I wouldn't have made it, man.
The most phenomenal place to be in the country. There's
I
no better place in the country to be. I mean, I remember I left home at 16. I went and moved to Michigan to kind of get my life together with my brother. And I remember I had opportunities. I would spend the summers at Amherst. My other brother went to Amherst, so I spent the summers with him there. And I thought that's where I was going to go. I was going to go someplace in New England. And my brother was just like, he's like, nah, don't go. He's like, don't come here. And I was like, why? He was like, if I had known about Morehouse, it just wasn't on my radar. He's like, I would have gone there. He's like, this environment is not for me, and I don't think it's going to be for you. He's like, he had a sense. He's like, this is going to be restrictive. And so I actually decide not to apply to any of those schools, and I applied to Morehouse. And so when I got in, I remember that summer, Southern Playlist of Cadillac and Your Music came out. And I was like, that's it.
It's
I was
like
like,
a
I'm
theme song.
going to the birthplace of this album. And sure enough, a week after I got there, I run into Big Boy and Andre, like at a party. Like first week, I'm coming out and Andre's coming in. I'm like, yo, Dre, what up? Your album is like, you know?
There.
And all the hip hop artists I would see, because Atlanta was considered kind of small then. So like all the New York artists would go to Atlanta, kind of get away, like to go to sort of be normal. And so you just see them walking around. They'd be at the parties, they perform at these small clubs. And so it was very intimate, you know what I mean? And so you just had all this music in the same place. Music from California, music from Tennessee, music from Texas, music from the Midwest. You know what I'm saying? True. First time I heard True, first time I really paid attention to Too Short was in Atlanta. Just everything, man. The first time I really consumed Snoop Dogg was in Atlanta, because one of my roommates was like, "Oh, you gotta listen to this. Like, you gotta listen to it." Because I'm representing.
Don't you when brothers be like, "Yeah, you gotta know. Sit down."
So that's the appreciation I have today for all kinds of hip hop came from being in that environment. And the great thing about HBCUs is HBCUs really represent how Black people are truly diverse.
Yeah.
You see
and that's a big misnomer. My daughter, who wants Howard, is first on her list. Just to let you know, Spelman, Howard, A&T, and FAMU. And so she goes to this great private school. Most deaf kids went to this school. It's a boarding school. And a lot of the kids are Nigerians. Shout out to the Nigerian. My daughter has a Nigerian name, Ayodele. And they're like, so why you want to go to an HBCU? It's not diverse. And I went to Grambling State University in Louisiana. And you talking about diverse, you got diverse views, you got
everything,
clothes,
economics, diversity.
Economics. And I think we get caught up on the look, because a person is not white or the person doesn't speak another language. And so I think that's sort of a misnomer. But you were in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Does Atlanta play any role in any of the stuff that
absolutely.
You do, man? Like
absolutely.
Your creative process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Back then I was really, really into dancing. Like the entire purpose of a club to me was to dance. And so that's all. And it was weird. If you talk to the people that knew me back then, I was a very strange person. I looked strange. I acted strange. I acted like nobody else, which is interesting because there were a lot of strange Black folks there.
Yeah.
But one thing I was really good at was dancing, and so I spent.
So
all
people
my
knew
time.
you from that. Like if they didn't know you, literally like,
knew me
strange
for
dude
being.
right
There's
there.
two things they knew me for. I worked at this restaurant called Wings and Things.
Okay. Yeah.
And they knew me for that, because I was always there, and they had something called Wing Madness Night on Friday nights, and I would turn that place into a fucking club. I would just turn WRFG. I would call them up, play these songs, turn it up, and then we're slinging 25-cent wings, and I would, and it'd just be people would just go. That was like your pre-party. You would go to Wings and Things before you head to the party.
Yeah,
the environment was so live. So I was really into dancing. So I really got into reggae. I really got into hip hop and house, and that's what I spent my time doing. So doing those things, I really started running into really interesting artistic people. I was hanging out at the Yin Yang Cafe when Erykah Badu would perform over there, and seeing the jazz musicians there, and Kemet would spin there, and so I got to see a piece of Atlanta's artistic side.
India wasn't down yet. India Irie.
I think
Donnie,
she was coming
they came
in.
A little later.
They were coming in
crew,
as I was kind of in there. But you were running to these people at all kinds of spaces. You didn't know who they were gonna be, but you would see them. You know.
Yeah, Donnie, the music artist Donnie shares a story about NDIRE. That whole crew, Anthony, what is it? Anthony Hamilton?
Yeah,
like that whole crew, they would be in that area
because there's a lot of live music.
Yeah,
and it was interesting.
Anthony
you'd be at
David.
You'd be at 5
Oh, I
Points.
love little 5
It was
Point,
all kinds of So I think absolutely that had an influence. What they call that neo soul. That like, okay, I want to feel something in the art. You know what I mean? I think to me that's what neo soul represents. Like I want to feel something in the art,
and those artists really did. So so speaking of feeling something, man, you now get this. Where I sort of discovered you, like many of us. You talking about feeling. You get this huge opportunity. You work with Ava DuVernay on 13th. I'm in the barbershop and I'm watching this film, man. Brothers, I'm in a very conscious barbershop. And I'm like, man, who is this? And what are they talking about? And mass incarceration. See the film, your name, because I'm into credits. What was it like? One, let's talk about working with her. What was it like working with her? And then what was it like doing that film? Because when you go to Netflix right now, brother, as soon as you log into Netflix, 13 still pops up. So what was it like working with her, and what was that process to do that film? Because I want to talk about some of the shooting, how you shot that as well.
I mean, I when I did 13th, I knew Ava probably about 3 or 4 years. I met her on a film that she was doing called My Mic Sounds Nice for BET, which was a film about women in hip hop.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that was the first time she worked with Brad, and I'd been working with Brad up until that point. So Brad was just like, "Hey, man, I'm doing this film for this filmmaker. You should, we should do it. It's gonna be fun." He was like, "It's gonna be about a bunch of women in hip hop." And I was like, "All right, cool." And Ava likes to tell the story. The first time she met me, I wasn't smiling. Like I kind of mean mugged her, and I now remember what it was. What it was I was really serious about being an assistant camera person and organizing what I was doing. And I remember like there was just a back and forth between me and her office in LA about like some equipment. They're like, are you sure you need this? And I was like, yeah, I absolutely need this because it's really blowing the budget out.
So you were ordering supplies.
Yeah, and I was just like, you guys know what you're talking about. Click. It was like that kind of like energy. So when I met her, I was like, you're part of those people. You guys made my life really hard before. Like I'm not trying to make my life hard. You know what I mean? And then we did this film. And then, so while we were doing that film, it was like, hey, I got this feature I'm doing in March. You think you'd be interested? Like, if you come to LA, would you be interested in working? I was like, you name the place, I'll be there, She's like, all right, cool, I'm gonna put you on the list. Like, when we're ready, I was like, okay, but I always heard people say they're gonna do something and it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And then she did call. She was like, hey, can't fly you out, but if you come out here, I would love for you to work on this film as Brad's first.
I like black folks. Like, we can't put you up, we can't feed you, but just get out here.
Yeah, and I was like, I'll do it. I was like, I ain't doing nothing.
I'm sure those days are over right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure she's not saying that.
No. And so, yeah, we did Middle Nowhere, man. We had a good time doing that. And then so when Middle came out, I was still at Howard, and I was like, hey, I do this speaking series at Howard. You should come out here and screen the film. And I was like, we got this whole speaking series that we do in this little film salon we doing. And she was like, okay, cool. So when she came, she was so impressed by what we were doing. She was like, man, you guys really should connect with our firm thing. And I was like, what was that? And I knew what it was, but she broke it down. I was like, yeah, we could do that. Like, we could distribute indie films. We'll make it work. And so for like 2 or 3 years, I talked to Ava like at least twice a month on these Affirm calls, what is now Array. And, it was about, they'd release a film. We'd have to do all the kind of, basically, street team work and getting the word out.
So were these students or these were, who was
Well, we had
work?
Myself in Monterey, Missouri, who's a professor. She was a professor then. And we just had this, I was just using my connections to create the speaking series. So I would know people and I'd be like, I'd call up an actor, like, if you come to DC, come and speak to our students. If you're this, come and speak. I got, brought Brad, AJ.
Howard, the name itself, I'm sure that helped out.
That helps,
well.
but
you still have to do
a lot of the actors are up on the hill talking to the School of Arts. They weren't always coming down the hill to the film school. So I was bringing people to the film school, not to the theater department. You know, whenever you see the splashy, you know, the actor goes to Howard, it's always associated with the theater department. It's almost never associated with the film school. So I was bringing people to the film school, which is a much smaller program, lower profile. So when Ava saw that, so that's how we started kind of talking. And you know, at that time, she was definitely coming to, like, she would basically tour the country with films. A film would be released, and she would go to all the 6 cities it was released. And so that's how we really developed our relationship. And then she asked me to shoot on a film she was doing called Venus Versus for 30 for 30. And
Another
so I
great
did that.
How was Venus, man?
Venus was amazing. So, like I heard that, oh, she's really difficult on media people, and she was the complete opposite. And I think because cameramen are notoriously jerks. Nobody wants to say that, man. Cameramen are notoriously can be very, very difficult to work with. And people ain't got time for that. Like, people is not trying to have you, you know.
Like, what do they do? I mean, they just like asshole. Are they saying
just,
like
it's about
slick?
you know, I'm trying to get my shot. You know, it's about like what they're doing. They're self-centered. They don't really always consider the subject, you know, or they're really great to a famous person, but they treat everybody around them like trash, and people notice that. So they treat you like they'll you know. I think that's the reputation that the sisters have. I think is based on that.
The sisters, Serena, these are the subjects.
I'm talking about. I'm talking about Serena and Venus.
Okay.
I don't think. Sisters, I don't think it's that they're mean. I think it's they see people treat people like trash, and they're gonna treat you like trash.
And they do have Compton roots, brother.
You know what I'm saying? They're not gonna go for that. So they'll be a little passive aggressive towards you. You know what I'm saying?
But working with her was cool.
Amazing. I would like both Serena and
because I'm a huge 30 for 30.
Yeah, no, they're great. Like, she was completely open. What do you need? Okay, Han. What do you need? You do it again? I'll do it again. She did things 5-6 times, like completely and utterly open. You know, so we did that together. That screened in DC, and so we hung out. And the way I got 13th was she was in town for the correspondence dinner, and she just was like, "Hey, can you come?" Like, last minute, she was like, "Can you come hang out with me? Like, just kind of escort me around. I'm going to the various parties." And I was like, "All right." Throw some clothes on. And I was doing like I do today. I'm gardening. I threw some clothes on, and we went and hung out. And it was, I don't know if she remembers this or even likes me telling the story in this way, but I remember we walked into this particular after party. It was a lot of like black celebs. And I know Kenya Barris from doing The Startup. We did this pilot for BET called The Startup. We just kind of became friends on that.
Show, man. My family loves the show.
So I walk in, and I know Van Jones, like, in a weird way, where Van Jones and I ran into each other.
Like Van too, man.
In Alabama at an airport with Representative Clyburn. So the three of us are in this airport. We start talking about something and just have this 30-minute great building session, just three brothers talking. And then Van and I just exchanged email because he was commenting like, "Man, you really work out. Like, I want to get your routine." So, you know, I just sent him emails like, "This is what I do." And, you know, jokes about, "Oh man, keep staying in the gym." So we see each other. And Van and Ava had never met, but she'd been contacting him for the doc. I walk in, I see Van. I said, "Yo, what's up, Van?" He's like, "Yo, Han, what's up?" And we like dapping, and Ava's like,
I love Van. Straight
"You know
Cali,
Van?"
brother,
I'm like, "Yeah, and I'm kind of like this." I was like, "Yeah, we know each other, you know." And so she's like, "Hey, Van," it's, you know, they knew each other from email, but they had never met. So they introduced, and then I see Kenya. I'm like, "Yo, Kenya, come over here, man." He's like, "What you doing here, man? What you doing?"
Like a Charlie Murphy story.
I'm like, "Yo, Kenya, you know Ava?" He's like, "I know of her." I was like, "Oh man, you got me." I was like, "Ava, you got me Kenya. That's my boy." Boom, 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 boom. You know, not even talking about, you know, Black is just like, that's my boy, you know. And then me and Van were sitting in the booth. The three of us are sitting in the booth, and me and Van are like, he's, you know, Ava's talking about what the film's going to be about, and me and Van start getting this conversation about for-profit prisons and the Koch brothers, and I just happened to be at that time. I was super interested. When I get interested in these things, I kind of dive in.
He would be the person to talk to about that.
So we were just going back and forth, like, boom, 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 and they was just watching, like, and she was like, "You really know a lot about this," and I was like, "Yeah, I just happen to be interested in this right now." The Koch brothers are, you know, anything political, and they're really diving in politically, and anything political is really interesting to me, like, you know. So she was like, "Well, you know, would you be interested?" No, she called me 2 weeks later. I was like, "You'd be interested in shooting?" And I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "There might be other DPs, but, you know, I'd love to have you."
So was she already working on this?
Yeah, she had I think she had the thing.
So, but she overheard. So she saw that there was an interest that you.
Her and Van were talking about it. You know, and me and Van, like, every time Van was about to say something, I would know exactly what he's talking about, and I'd jump out, like, "Yeah, such and such, yeah, this." And I'll throw a stat. In this state, it's doing this. And they just changed this law, right? He was like, yeah, I was at that conference. It was like that kind of thing. And she would jump in and say, oh, yeah, so this is, Michelle Alexander is doing this. I'm basing the book on that, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, you know a lot about this. And I was like, this is a very interesting subject. Like, I'm curious.
So you weren't just shooting. This is something that was really personal.
I happen to know. And I had also got, this part I don't think she ever knew until after the film came out. I got caught in the criminal justice system when I was in Atlanta. I got accused of stealing a car. And I didn't steal a car. I essentially got an older dorm mate to rent a car. And then he wanted to go. We were going to Mardi Gras. He wanted to go with us, and we didn't want to take him. Mardi Gras day. So as soon as we left with the car, he called the cops and said we stole the car. And then when we returned the car to give it to him, he didn't return it to the rent-a-car company. We get into a fight with him a week later. The cops come. They're gonna let us all go, but then they notice that me and my roommates' names are, we.
Like wanted or something.
He stole a car. So they take us to the police department, and the detectives don't believe him. They believe us. So like, your story makes sense. Because why? If you stole a car, you live across the hall from him, and a car is sitting, they know where the car is sitting. They're like, then why didn't he call the cops as soon as you walked into the door? So it's like really lucky. 3 things lucky. We didn't get caught while we drove through Alabama into Louisiana.
I know, going to the Bayou Classic.
Mardi Gras. There and back. We were lucky that he didn't call the cops on us when we came home on Monday morning, because he had called the cops, we would have been arrested, and it would have made sense. You stole the car, you came back. So detectives kind of basically made it was like a prejudicial writing, like, don't believe the guy making the accusation, believe these 2 guys, right? So we go to court, and the first judge was like, this doesn't make no kind of sense. He was like, you guys need public defenders, right? So we go get public defenders. And my roommate, being the good person that he is, he gets his public defender immediately. And I procrastinate till the last minute. And in Atlanta, they had a rule: if you want to meet with public defender, you have to meet 5 days before minimum 5 days before the case. Well, I go 3 days before our hearing. So I show up, and it's a different judge. And this judge had to take the caseload, the docket of the other judge. The other judge was sick or whatever. So he's mad that he had to take the docket. So he has to do his docket and this other. So he's just throwing people in jail. Just throwing motherfuckers in jail. Going to jail. Case before us is a guy who stabs his girlfriend with an axe 70 times.
Oh, so he's fired up.
Jail. So he's fired up. Right?
This dude fired up.
So we walk in there. We're the defendants. And the dude that accuses us walks in and says, I represent Morehouse College, and these 2 gentlemen stole a maintenance vehicle. That's what this case is about. So this is where the thing with the criminal justice comes in. If you read the case, if you just read the docket, it clearly says it was a rent-a-car, that he lent us a rent-a-car, and we drove it. Now, at the time, probably still the case in Atlanta, if you were under 25, because so many kids were going to Atlanta for spring break and renting cars in the area, they made it criminal for somebody under 25 to drive a rent-a-car under any circumstance. So it doesn't matter if your mom, your dad, under any circumstance, you could not drive a rent-a-car under 25. And if you were 21, you had to pay extra money, right? So we were under 21, right? So there's that, right? Just to the pure letter of the law. But it was about a rent-a-car. So they called it theft by conversion, which means we just held on to the car a day longer. Like, that's what it means. But it's also like under this statute that said they didn't want kids under 25 for liability reasons driving rent-a-cars. Well, when he says he represents Morehouse and we were driving we joyrided with a maintenance vehicle, and he gets to say that, and the judge doesn't even look in the thing and doesn't verify who he is or anything. So we're trying to say that's not the case, but judge does not listen. Like, literally, that's not. Shut up. It's like, shut up. And he was like, why don't you have a public defender? And this is my excuse. I was studying for finals. I didn't go in time. Well, and he says, you clearly don't care about school if you're stealing maintenance vehicles from the school. And I'm like, that's not what happened. Shut up. And it was crazy. It was like, so we had to, my roommate said, my good friend, public defender, was like, Your Honor, can I just grab the both of them and talk to them back? And she brings somebody, she's like, look, and she explains to her, she's like, he's having a bad day. He had to do this docket. He's throwing everybody in jail. She said, you have 2 options. She said, you can pay $500 bail right now. You walk out in 2 hours. Or you can sign your arrest ticket, because it was unsigned. So it wasn't official arrest. It was unsigned. She was like, you can sign this arrest ticket, and now you will be processed, and then you'll get out in 12 hours. Those are your only options. I was like, those are terrible options. I don't have $500, and I do not want to go to jail. She was like, you have no other options. So we had to be processed. So we ended up in Fulton County Jail with just the craziest shit, like 60 people in a cell, all kinds of shit happening.
So was it more than 12 hours?
Yeah, it was probably like 16 hours. I think we were there for. They just had a lot of people to process, you know. And I remember near the end of the day, they were pulling people out the cell, and they're like, there are two lines: Gen Pop, and you about to be released, and you don't know which one you're gonna go to. You know, so when we got to the other line, it was like, whoa, you know. So we got out. We had to walk back to campus because anybody knows Atlanta, you know where the Fulton County Jail is. Probably about like 5 miles, maybe 3 miles from campus. We had to walk back to campus. Immediately went to public service, you know, I guess what they used to call the police department. We told the police, and they literally woke up a dean. And we told them what happened. We're like, look, man, this guy said you guys, you know, you put your name in this. And they're like, all right. So they got us an attorney. And they fixed the case. They ended up getting the whole thing expunged. And, you know, when Obama was president, I got a chance to photograph him for an interview. And when they do background report, like a deep background report, and there was nothing, and I was able to do it. And I literally was holding my breath. I was like, this shit might come up. Like, I might not be able to do the job.
When I went to the White House too, when they ran my stuff through, it was, you know, this was a historic moment. Mm-hmm. Black president, black man bringing his black family, and I was like, oh, is my stuff gonna go through?
Yeah.
So you, while you were filming 13th, so those things sort of resonated with you as you guys were
I had
doing.
a deep that I knew. I had been through that. You know, one I had blocked this out. Actually, my sister reminded me a few years ago. The four of us almost got killed by the police once. We were coming back from church, and when my brother's 16, he got a car. He bought his own car. My parents let him get a car, so we'd go to these services. We'd drive with him. We're coming back. We'd ride back with him. So my dad was just lingering around. So he's like, go ahead, go. We're in the car. We're driving home. At the time, we lived in a nice part of town. And the cop pulls us over, and the cop is just agitated and brings a bunch of cops. And I'm mouthing off. I think it was 13, 14. I'm mouthing off. My brother's trying to get me to shut up in the back. And I'm like, why is he pulling us over? This is racist. I'm just going off.
Your voice is probably that high, too.
Yeah,
man.
The cop's got his hand on the gun. And my dad was like 10 minutes behind us. And he rolls up. And he's like, oh, he's like, oh man, this messed up. What's happened to those people? And he's like, oh snap, that's the kids. He recognized the car, and he's like, and he sees the cops pulling their guns out. He's like, yo, the kid's about to get killed. So he jumps out the car, and he's telling the cops. So the thing that my dad's a really smart person. My dad always understood how his accent helped him. So two things: the town that we grew up in was a heavily Irish Catholic, Italian Catholic. So on his driver's license to get out of, because when my dad first came to this country, he used to get pulled over so often, he learned to wear his priest collar.
Now, where did you guys come to when your folks? Was it New York, Miami?
No, my mom came to
route or
no. My mom came to New York, and then when my dad came, they moved to Connecticut. They got a job working for this guy on his estate, and they raised us there.
So he used to rock the.
He got smart and would take his driver's license photos with his reverend collar, because he realized that no matter how racist the Italian cops or Irish cops were, they were still Catholic. So they would immediately refer to him as Father. I've witnessed this a million times. They'd be like, Father, okay, Father, you were speeding, Father. They just they didn't have a sense of Protestantism, so they didn't distinguish between a Catholic priest and a Protestant. They saw that collar, it just clicked in their minds. It was a very strange thing to witness. I've seen him get out of the worst tickets. And what he would do is he would play dumb. He would just kind of be like, oh, I'm sorry. And, his heavy accent make me translate, even though he knew exactly what the cop was saying. But they'd be so deferential. So he shows up. He shows them his license. And like, all right, Father, are these your kids? And he's like, those are my kids. It's all four of my kids, And he calmed the cops down. And I never forget when he walked in the house with my mom, he was like, your kids almost got killed tonight. They almost killed all four of your kids. They were going to kill all four of them. You know what I mean? Like, so these are the experiences I had. So on set, when I was talking to either experts or people who had been in the criminal justice system, I just had a sense of what it was like. Even though I never did long bids, but, a lot of my classmates from back home they got caught up in the drug game and they did like 10, 15-year bids.
You ever been on a film on a set, man, and you were just shooting, and someone just said something to you, and you just like blurted like, "Yo, man, that was deep," or like, have you ever just got to like someone is doing like let's say 13 because it is deep, and so you listen to somebody.
Never with Ava because Ava's very particular about the way
Okay.
she sets a very particular environment when she's interviewing. But,
Yeah.
but I'm doing this Wu-Tang doc now, and yeah, working with Sasha Jenkins, director, and Sasha's would he just has a looser
Indeed.
set, and he would I would like, oh man, it's crazy, or I'd be laughing, someone say something.
So while you shooting, while you filming,
yeah.
So what advice would you have? Would you give to someone who wanted to start a career in film, and be it a young person, someone who loves film? What? Any advice for them?
I mean, a piece of advice that Spike used to give out, which is to me monumental. Spike used to always tell filmmakers that they really needed to understand film history. They need to understand the history of cinema in America, the history of cinema in the world, and they need to have like just a deep understanding. And I think that's important. I think just pick up the camera and shooting. You're not saying anything new. Whatever story you think is unique is not unique. What's unique is the very being of who you are. That creates a new perspective on an age-old story. So you need to understand that your once upon a time ain't new. You need to understand how many times people have said once upon a time. Once upon a time there was whatever. So you need to understand all the iterations of that in order for you to bring your unique perspective. I think that's the most important thing. I think technology has opened up access to this industry in a way that it just hadn't been when Spike came along, or Johnny Simmons, or Don Morgan, or Julie. Those people, they literally had to give up pints of blood to make their movies. And nowadays you can make me and my partner made a really gorgeous first film for next to nothing. Ironically, the producer of She's Gotta Have It was the executive producer on our film One Angry Black Man. So we have a keen sense of that historically, just the access that digital has given to us.
So we talk a lot about successes in our work. Where is there a moment in your career where you felt that you might have been a failure in maybe shooting something, or maybe your approach, and what have you sort of learned from those? I
mean, I'm always failing. I feel I'm in this business with a chip on my shoulder. You guys are catching me on a day that I feel like I have a deep, a sense. I always feel like an outsider in this business.
Does that help you keep grounded?
I don't know. I don't know if it hurts me or helps me. So I'm in a space. My partner said to me today, he was just like, he said, you're using this film to prove to people that you made it, which is nobody would ever say that to him.
Which film is that? Is that One Angry Black Man?
One Angry Black Man.
Because I want to talk about that too.
And that's really funny to me, but it's because I do operate with a chip on my shoulder. I remember somebody said that to me. She's like, "Why are you so angry? Like, you just like nobody owes you anything." I was like, "No, I'm not. It's not about owing. It's just y'all need to leave me the fuck alone. Like, I feel like y'all bothering me. Like, I feel like the world doesn't let me be me." And
so when you say you, are you representing all men of color when you say me, or is it you specific? Like,
I definitely feel that sense of solidarity with men of color.
Okay.
And that's occurred in the last 10 or 15 years. I've really had a sense that we are going through a similar thing. And it's a very tricky thing because it's the thing that we're going through is the thing, because we're men, we just have clear advantages, and there are things we're just not dealing with. And this Me Too movement is kind of illuminating what we're not dealing with, what we don't have to deal with on a daily basis. But because we're men of color, there's just things that we are dealing with that I just think black women just can't see. It's just invisible. Same thing that the things that are visible to them. Like I've never, because I'm dark skinned, I'm tall, I'm kind of well built. There's just not a neighborhood in the world that I can't walk through. I just can't walk through anyway. And I've done. People talk about how dangerous Chicago was. I didn't see it. I lived in East Point, Georgia, one probably at the time was one of the most dangerous places in the world, and I barely felt it. Like I never felt threatened. In Atlanta, I never felt threatened because I learned as long as you said "excuse me," you weren't gonna get shot. Like it wasn't like New York where you could walk through a neighborhood and cats be like, "What are you doing here?" And then, you get jumped. In Atlanta, if you got shot, you probably did something to get shot because they had the hospitality culture. So you could, man, I stepped on this nigga's sneakers.
Isn't that interesting, man?
Hot. Oh man. Oh my bad, folk.
Yeah.
My bad, man. Let me buy you a drink. And it's even if he wants to kirk off, his homeboy gonna be like, "Oh man," he said, "Sorry, man, you gotta let that go." Like they just have a hospitality culture. So you can go anywhere, do anything as long as you said, "I'm sorry." There's no reason to shoot you. Like and cats are strapped. Like that was the thing. A lot of when I first went to Morehouse, 9 guys from Morehouse got shot my freshman year and killed. 6 of them were dealing drugs.
You know, so our stories. You know, so you 98. I was 94.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Louisiana.
It's very similar, right?
But it seemed like everybody was hustling. I'm like, dude, you came. You know, I'm from Chicago, so you came to school to gangbang. I thought we got away. You came to like the Cali cats. You came to hustle.
You came to, and they thought, oh, these are country
and they thought
dudes.
country. They thought these dudes were country.
You would end up in a field, shot.
All cats be slick. You know, I mean, you from New York, man. You know, these niggas down here. You know,
I ain't country. They wearing these shorts. They wearing the shorts above their knees. They wearing them low tops. K-Swiss. These niggas country.
Yeah.
That's all you hear. Pop, pop,
it would
pop,
definitely happen.
Because in Atlanta, it was legal to carry.
Oh, everybody. Folks was getting guns from the pawn shop, like everywhere.
But it wasn't even that. Everybody was packing in New York in their backpacks, right? But you did not want to see the cop come around the corner and frisk you because you was about to get. Not in Atlanta. You get pulled over by the police. Oh, officer, I got a gun in the glove compartment. All right, well, let me just see your license.
Yeah.
And then you show him your gun license and then your insurance, and he don't even care if your car is registered.
Yeah.
Okay, well, your gun license looks in order and your insurance looks in order. Hey, man, you need to fix that taillight. All right, see you later. Boom. How many times I've been in a car where ain't nobody tripping because there's a pistol in the car? Because everybody got a pistol in their car because the law says your car is an extension of your property.
Indeed.
And you're allowed to have a gun in your house, an extension by. So you were allowed to shoot your gun from 2 feet. You had a 2 feet radius from your car that you were allowed to shoot your gun if somebody did something to you. Right? So everybody's packing. So I learned real quick. I can go anywhere. I used to go hang out Bankhead. Because I go to booty shake clubs.
Yeah.
All I had to do was not talk shit.
Atlanta.
That's it. I go anywhere and not talk shit and nobody bother me. So I had this sense. Talking to my women friends, you realize they can't do that. They can't just go like, hey, let's go here. They're like, it's just me and you.
They got to think it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just me and you. What if like 5 guys approach us? What are you gonna do? I believe you can handle 2, but can't handle 5. You know. Mm-hmm. So I realized that there's a difference, and that's not something I would see. Like I don't have.
So angry black man, which is about a black male at a predominantly white school, right?
It's about a young black student. He's about to graduate. He's 8
Okay.
weeks from graduating at a predominantly
white institution.
Yeah, at a white liberal arts New England.
And what does
school.
he have? Like an epiphany of what's going on around him?
No. He has an event happens before the film opens, and you're 8 weeks into this black literature course that they've been taking. And they've been studying Baldwin and Ta-Nehisi Coates and August Wilson, and the professor's black, and it's just a diverse group of students in the classroom. But there's sort of this elephant in the room with this incident. And the issues based around this incident kind of come out as they're discussing and arguing about these books and what these books mean. And it's interesting.
So what's the release on that? You and the brother Menelik, right?
Menelik Lumumba, yeah.
Yeah,
Menelik
strong
is my
name,
partner.
man.
Yeah.
Strong name.
Menelik's a cool dude. Menelik is a really smart, really smart director, really prolific writer, a guy who breathes, eats, sleeps writing, and just, he has an interesting journey. I mean, when this movie comes out, I'm really interested in watching people interview him and him getting a chance to kind of tell his own story.
Where's Menelik from?
He is from Denver, Colorado.
He's from Denver. So what's the release date? What's the release date on the film?
Well, the film premieres at the Black Star Film Festival. We're clearly working on distribution and all that stuff.
And where's Black Star? Where is that going to take place?
Black Star is in Philadelphia, August 4th through the 8th. Last year, Ava was a keynote speaker at the film festival. It was one of the first festival, like Black Star's first year. She screened I Will Follow. So she has a kind of deep relationship with the film festival, but it's a film festival I've just been going to every year I think since their second year.
Another great film I love, Pariah.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like to work on Pariah? I know that director is really growing. She's also a
Dee Reese.
HBCU, Florida A&M.
Yeah, Dee Reese is real interesting. Dee Reese, we made that film in, at the what I call the heyday of independent film in New York. There was a time in New York where you could make a film on a shoestring budget, and it was strong because you had strong actors living in New York. You had great crews, and people just wanted to make good work.
You had a great backdrop too. I mean, New York is
now it's hard. Now it's like it's just hard to maneuver. You gotta get all these permits because it became so. I think we helped make it. There are other people, but and also because New York became more expensive to live. But yeah, we Dee and Nikisa Cooper, the producer at the time. Nikisa is the head of production for a company called Masterclass. They do those Masterclass videos on Facebook.
Yeah, I check those out.
And Nikisa, just was a woman who came out of corporate America and linked up with Dee and decided to produce this film, and didn't know anything about the filmmaking process. But the way her mind works is she when she decides to do something, she learns everything about it, and so she learned everything about producing, and just really like one day people need to sit her down and be like, all right, tell us what you know, because she's just really has a keen sense of what it means to produce something on a shoestring budget, but to get every dime on the screen.
So where do you think the direction of black cinema is going? I mean, are you excited where filmmaking is going for folks that look like us?
Well, what do you mean by that?
So with the projects that are coming out, so when you look at the body of works that's coming out from, if you compare it to, I guess, the 80s to the 90s, are you excited in the direction where folks are taking their stories? Because there's so many stories to be told.
I mean, I would look at it historically, and I would say history tells us that the presence of people of color in the American film culture has always been consistent, right? Oscar Micheaux responded to Birth of a Nation 3 years after it came out.
Yes.
Right? Birth of a Nation is 1921, I think, or 29, something like that. So we've always had a presence in the American cinematic space, but we've always had ebbs and flows, right? So I always bristle when people are like, oh man, this is a new thing. No, it's not no new thing. We've been ebbing and flowing. We've been in this from the beginning. We've had a presence in this from the very beginning. In fact, back then, we had more independent theaters. We had more outlets for distribution than we do today. We have very few independent black theaters. And back then, we had a plethora. We had a proper national network in the 30s and 40s, in the 50s. When Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song is released to a lot of black independent theaters across the country. And that we don't have that today. So I think you always have to look at things historically. I think what we have today that we didn't have, and let's put streaming services on the table on the back burner for 2 seconds. But what we have today, because of digital, we have the ability for people to make movies at a like if we talk about it in manufacturing terms, so we can now mass produce. People of color can now mass produce films, and it didn't used to be that way because with celluloid, you paid for the film, exposing the film, and then you paid the same amount to develop the film. So there was a double cost. By eliminating that cost, we've made certain things possible. So I think now we're going to see what it is that we have to say. We couldn't really see what we had to say because so few people could say it. The finished product. I'm sure people shot a ton of movies throughout the history of black people in cinema in America, but so few people would see the finished product. So I think now we're going to see the finished product, and now we're going to see what is black cinema, because we really don't know what black cinema is.
Yeah. Is there a particular person that you would want to work with that you haven't worked with yet? Be it a director, be it a writer, an actor.
No, right now I'm interested in working with a friend of mine, Arthur Jaffa, who shot Crooklyn.
Yeah. Crooklyn,
and he's doing a lot of stuff in the art space right now. Arthur talked about the problem with when he looks like the late 80s, early 90s, and even with him when he did Daughters, because he shot Daughters, him and Julie. He said him and Julie only got a chance to do that one film together. And he said a lot of the great filmmakers, white filmmakers you look at, will work with the same person over like 5 or 6 films. They've been given that opportunity. So I kind of took that as my cue, and when Menelik and I were talking about partnering creatively together, that was like our model. We want to make a series of films together. If you look at Spike's first 6 films, he made it with Ernest. He made it with the same producing team, generally the same crew, in some cases the same actors. You know, and that's some of his strongest work, not his best work, but some of his strongest work. And I think that's because he got to work with, there's consistency, and I think cinema requires a certain amount of consistency. You know, so for me, you know, there's a young filmmaker named Nefertiti Nguvu. She had a film called In the Morning. You can see it on Amazon. Beautiful film. And I did a series of small kind of branded stuff with Neff. I think I'd love to do something narrative with Neff. There are a couple other people I think I'd be interested. I would be interested in doing something small with Ryan Coogler. Like, what would a small film with Ryan Coogler look like? You know what I mean? Like, just some shit that we got a small thing in some small town, small script, you know. But I'm focused right now on working on doing a series of films with Menelik, because I want to see how my style develops and how his style develops. And I find that, you know, I'm interested in legacy. Like, I'm interested in people looking at my work long after I'm dead. As a body. Yeah, and I think that has to come out with a certain consistency. So I'm most focused and interested in working with him for the next 10 years. That doesn't mean I won't work with other people as well, but working with him is going to be my focus for the next 10 years.
Is there a story that has yet to be told that you would like to tell? Because there's so many stories.
There is a story that I am. So Menelik and I we write together. We've been working on a lot of stuff that he's been writing, but there is a story that I am working on that I don't think is quite being told right now.
Can you give us a piece of it? Is it?
It's about rap music. It's about
rap music.
Yeah, that's all I say.
Not Wyclef again, right?
No, not at all. Okay, so to me, just in terms of background, like, to me, I'm right now finishing up working on the official Wu-Tang documentary. So the official documentary about Wu-Tang Clan. So are you interviewing any of the guys at all? All got interviewed. All people around them.
So come back to the story. So out of all the Wu-Tang members, man, which one to you is just the most interesting? Whose story?
My favorite to interview was Ghostface Killer.
Oh man, I love
because Ghostface one-on-one is, he's such an interesting guy. I don't want to say it in a way that he wouldn't like me to say it. But okay, this is probably the best way to say it. He's so present when you sit him down and talk to him. He's a present person. He's a present space. So what is on his mind, what is on his heart, he is so unafraid to tell you. The person with the probably most interesting background is Method Man, by far.
Yeah, Meth has done a great body of work, man.
But Ghost is present.
Yeah. Like, so how does this feel, man? A kid with Haitian roots, whose parents are not artists, very religious background. How does it feel being in this space, to be sitting down with people that you might have listened to when you weren't supposed to be listening to that music, movies that you may not have been able to watch because of your background? How does it feel being in that space right now? I mean, starting from a 13-year-old boy who critiqued the Matty Rich film, and now you're meeting with these people.
Sometimes I think I'm the luckiest person on earth. I think the camera has has fulfilled every dream and desire I've almost ever had. And there are places I'm like, I wonder what. When I was a kid, I worked with this director, Sonia Gonzalez, doing a web series, and we are shooting on location in these buildings in New York. If you ever cross the George Washington Bridge heading into New Jersey, you go under these buildings that seem to be built on the bridge. And the whole time as a kid, I used to be like, man, I want to go in that building someday. And one day, they gave me the address. I show up, and it's that building. And I remember telling Sonia, I'm like, I, as a kid, dreamed about walking into this building. I never thought I'd ever have a chance to walk in this building. Like, this building, my dad, when he picked up people up from Haiti, from the airport, he would purposely drive by under that bridge just to show people, look, this is America. They build buildings on top of bridges. You know, so for me, film has like fulfilled almost every single dream I've ever had, every single person I've ever wanted to meet. I met Harry Belafonte, you know, I met Ruby Dee. I met like the most amazing people I never thought I would meet. You know, I got to talk to people on sort of like an equal level. I got to sit with Lauren and talk about her music. I've talked to Raekwon about his music. You know, I'm telling Ghostface, your music is what is what you saw. You saw hood cats reacting to your music, and then you went overseas and you saw like foreigners react to your music. You've seen white people react to your music, but I think the people you've never seen react to your music are cats like me, cats who are not gonna go in a certain route, right? We are protected from going a certain route, but we're still gonna have to deal with this racism shit. Your music was the armor we put on before we had to go face this crazy world.
That's the power of hip hop, man.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you knew the cats that was listening to music that was going to go slang on the street, but you ain't know that the college kids, the black college kids, they weren't just trying to be down when they saw you at the concert. They were listening to this shit when they had to go into a tough chemistry class. They would fucking put 36 chambers. That's what your music did. You need to understand that I would listen to that shit to go achieve. I wasn't listening to Bach to achieve. I was listening to 36 chambers. I was listening to Purple Tape. I was listening to Cal. You need to understand that. And I said that to Ray and I said that to Ghost in separate occasions. They were like, word? I'm like, dude, you don't understand. You see all these black nerds? They all know your shit. And you got them through. You know what I mean? So the opportunity to even say that to somebody. I
mean, that's powerful, man. You know, because off air, we were talking about your roots, and I think about that. I mean, so that same type of feeling that you've got is what I'm feeling sitting down with you, man. I mean, watching your films, Pariah, you know, watching 13th, walking in the barber shop, you know, hearing about your Haitian roots, and because I've traveled to Haiti, I mean, it's that same type of feeling. And so I am a fan. It's when I always ask people in the industry, like, if you are right, if I'm talking to Ta-Nehisi Coates, who I know, like, who are you reading? So Baldwin, who are you reading?
See, we interviewed Ta-Nehisi the other day.
Yeah, so we go way back, and so you know, to hear that is amazing because again, looking at these artists when they're creating this music, and you said they're not thinking about, you know, some college kids who are, you know, that's why I think when Kanye did College Dropout, I mean, that was sort of revolutionary, man.
Yeah, it was interesting. Yeah.
Because again, when you were talking about it, I envisioned my boy Don, who all he played that whole last year at Grambling was 36 Chambers. Mm-hmm. That whole album, man. That's I don't think Don had another CD, and I'm dating myself. The CD player, I don't think had another CD. But again, it got him through, and that's the power of hip hop. I'm walking down the street, or I'm driving, and Darius and I, you know, looking at people, and I'm watching brothers. Normally, I'm like, that's hip hop. Like, I'm watching these cats flowing. They're moving their hand. They're eating their pizza. I know they ain't listening to no R&B, man. I'm like, no, that's hip hop, because you can see a swag of a person who's listening to some R&B as opposed to listening to some hip hop music.
When I travel, when I get off the plane, I put on what I call my walking music. You know, and I'm gonna put on the rawest. Sometimes I put on Black Republicans with Jay-Z and Nas, or I'll find something, you know. And I was like, I gotta put on my walking music because I gotta put on my pimping. Like, I'm walking off this plane, like you know what I'm saying? Like, it just gives me a certain energy. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I claim that, you know, because people, you know, people are intuitive, and they look at you and they think, you know, I can be comfortable around him. I don't think he's gonna snap at me or something like that. You know what I mean? And so I like to surround myself with that energy that recreates the bubble around me. You know what I mean? Like, I know in certain spaces I can't have a bubble around me, but then sometimes I like to reestablish the bubble, and I find that putting a pair of headphones, a pair of sunglasses, and putting that hip hop reestablishes that bubble. Everybody, boom, it's immediate. You're gonna react to that bubble, and you're gonna give me that space, and you're gonna stay away. And it's universal. It's the police, down to like the old lady. You know, well, if I'm not in the mood, I don't want to be interacting. Boom, I put that on, and it's a wrap. You know, and it's always, like you said, it's always hip hop.
Yeah, always. So this is part of the sound bombing when I ask these. They call it super questions, man. I'm just throwing some questions to you, because folks want to know some of these things, man. What's your morning routine? What's your routine in the morning?
Oh man, I got the worst routine.
What's your routine?
I don't do shit. I live like, besides
wake up.
I mean, when I talk to if I'm not on set, if I talk to my friends, it's cause sometimes I say I lived a charmed life. It's like, we're bed around 10. So that's your role. So no routine. Just wake up. And I love to go to places where only like people who live a life of leisure will be caught in the early morning. Yeah. So in the early years, I used to go to the I used to specifically do this on a Monday morning. I would go to the driving range. Mm. Like I'd go far out to some driving range at 10 o'clock in the morning. And the only people who are going to be in the driving range 10 o'clock on a Monday are CEOs. Yeah. And I'd be out in the driving range.
What is your favorite word?
Oh, yeah. Let me finish my routine.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, and then I work out pretty consistently because I need kind of.
So what type of workout? When you say workout, lifting, running, cardio,
lifting and running.
Okay.
Yeah. So sometimes I do distance. Sometimes I do short tracks. I do like 100-yard dash. Sometimes I do 400, 800 routines. A lot of lifting.
Okay. What's your favorite word?
Motherfucker.
Are you like Bernie Mac? You know how to use it in the.
Yeah.
That's your favorite word.
Yeah, that's my favorite word.
What is the book or books you've given most as a gift, and why? If there's a book that you've given.
I used to give this book. I try to get people to read this book. Nobody read it. It's a book that I've been lucky enough to been given an opportunity to adapt into a film, and I haven't done so yet. I'm going to do it, but it's a book by Walter Mosley. I love to give any Walter Mosley books.
And you know, Paul Coates is Ta-Nehisi Coates' dad. That's who used to produce a lot of his stuff.
Oh, okay, yeah. So anything by Walter, I like to give away. But I used to try to give away this book 47, a small book that Walter wrote that I'm not sure anybody really read, but it's like one of the most ingenious books, and a book that helped me wrap my brain around being a person of color in this country. 47 is about a slave in 1831, a kid who's about 12 years old, who discovers that the things that he's about to do for the next week are going to change events in the entire universe.
Wow.
And it's based on a sort of folktale about Tall John the Conqueror. So this folktale there's a folktale that talks really is about the bridge between as Africans came to the Americas and became more integrated into space. The folktale was about Tall John the Conqueror, who a spirit from Africa was going to come to America to free the slaves. So Walter kind of takes this folktale and turns into this beautiful piece of speculative fiction. Oh, I'm happy to check that. And I try to get people to read the book. I'm working on an adaptation. I've come up with this whole scheme of doing things, and people over at that camp are always looking at me like, when are we gonna see something? And every time I see them, I'm like, I'm gonna write it, and they're like,
So what sound or noise do you love? Sound or noise do you love?
I don't know. I do like the sound of a summer thunderstorm.
Summer thunderstorm.
Yeah.
Lightning, crackling.
Yeah, just once that rain is, that because you just hear the difference and you smell the difference in the air, and just reminds me when I was a kid, we'd have the windows open, and it just or this actually, let me put it this way. A summer thunderstorm when the power is out. Because the house goes quiet.
Well, that sounds like typical Haiti, brother. Is that Haiti or the U.S., man?
Yeah, no. Here when your power goes out because of a thunderstorm, that kind of quiet. I mean, that was the times that I remember my mom would tell stories because there's nothing for her to do. Nobody could do anything, so she would start telling stories about growing up. Okay. So hearing the rain and that smell and that kind of humidity, that dampness that comes with it.
So what's your superpower? What's your superpower, man?
I think I have futuristic vision.
Futuristic vision, and it helps out with your filming.
I think
and your
so.
writing.
Okay. Yeah, I think the joke between my partner and I was all that happened with our film. He just didn't believe it. He just didn't believe it. Through the entire process, just didn't believe it.
So I know you doing the Wu-Tang project. Outside of Wu-Tang, what are you listening to now?
In terms of music?
In terms of music.
Okay, so I have a podcast called Back to Theater Podcast, and we do film and we do cultural critiques. And I have for years bashed Kanye West. Like years openly bashed Kanye West. And after this last outburst, I was like, forget Kanye, screw him, I ain't listening. And then I don't know what made, I think the thing between Drake and Pusha T, because I've always been a big fan of the Clips, made me listen to the Daytona album. I was like, man, this is something. So then I didn't listen to the Kanye release, but I did listen to the Kids See Ghosts. And I was like, damn, this is producing. And I heard the Nas album and I was like, this is strong. I don't care what nobody said. This is just only like out of 7 cuts, there's only one I didn't like. I was like, this is strong. And then I heard Tiana Taylor. I've lost my mind. That's the album of the year, hands down. I don't care what nobody said. Those are 7 amazing songs, period. And I worked with Tiana on The Startup. Those are, so first of all, her voice is phenomenal. Like she has that kind of Jasmine Sullivan, proper R&B, no question about the quality of her voice. There's no question about what she's doing vocally, right? So she bringing the heat, then she's bringing emotion. You believe everything she is singing. That 3-way, you don't even know, that song could be about anything, which is why the irony that it's about a 3-way, like, because it's like, she's singing with so much passion. She could have been singing about police brutality. It's the same passion singing about the 3-way. So it could be anything. So that to me is a sort of a Aretha Franklin-esque quality in her voice. So for me, those series of albums,
it's interesting you say that because my daughter, who's a performer, my daughter is 16. The same feeling you get from Tiana, I love the artist Her. I really love her.
Her is dope. Yeah, and Her is dope.
I get that, and I just watched her BET performance, but I get that same type of feeling.
Her. I've been listening to some of the stuff, and it so I think I feel like we've been treated with June, which is Black Music Month.
Yeah, we've been trying to figure. It seems like it's every other month now, but I think it may be June.
Black Music Month was a hit for us in 2018. I mean, we had that Carter album with the Carters was a strong album. I think the beef between Pusha T and Drake was just strong, just in terms of music. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And all the music, I mean, I've been loving what Cardi B's been doing. I mean, sonically for me, this has been the happiest I've been in terms of music in a long time. I just felt
same here, man. I've been diving a lot into
week after week. I was like, I'm just getting gems. Like I just felt I bought I'm not ripping that stuff. I'm buying that stuff. I'm owning it. Like I felt so lucky. I've been wanting to talk about this Tiana Taylor album. I just feel like it's the album of the year.
I think most of the time I get my music. I'm a Tiny Desk watcher, man. And my daughter, will say, turn me on to it. But it's just a great way to discover these artists. A lot of raw, a lot of great talent,
good stuff
a lot of clarity,
good stuff on Tiny Desk.
But production wise, I'm really enjoying it too. So
Kanye brought it. I hate. Oh man, do I hate to admit this, man? Because I thought he was overrated as a producer. I was saying that. I was like, he's overrated. I was like, 808s is his best album. Fuck all y'all. I'm not listening to y'all. He's overrated.
I'm an old Kanye.
I think 808s is his purest. That's because why? I'll tell you why. Because he's not rapping. He doesn't rap one time on that album.
I mean, that's a great assessment of it. Yeah.
And I think so. It makes it turns into a classic hip hop because what he does, he basically sings hooks, and then he brings all these guest rappers, and then with that production, the imagination of the production really gives the rappers the foundation to do what they do. So they're really able to have fun. And it's phenomenal. So to me, that's my favorite. There are some that are more interesting, like My Crazy Dark Fantasy, I think was interesting. The thing he did with Jay, I think, was really interesting as well. But I always felt like 808s was a unadulterated classic. Like it was like there was no skipping songs. Because it was so innovative. The thing he did with the Japanese drums is innovative. The fact that he's singing on it, even with the auto-tune, I think that is actually an innovation. It's not like, doesn't hold it back. And he's letting rappers rap, and he's not rapping on it. And I think that's why I say I was like, you can't, because if he's rapping, he's not a real rapper because he doesn't really write his own stuff. So you can't put him on the list. You know what I'm saying? So for me, that was his best work. And then I listened to these, which I think I would call the Good Music album, is what I would call it. Good Music 2018. man, is that strong in terms of production. I feel like he reestablished. Some of the critics are like, oh, he's not using a modern sound. He's not doing the trap thing. And I'm like, nah, I think he stayed in his lane and he took it in a slightly different direction. And he made everybody, Daytona in terms of rap is, God, that's strong. That is so strong. And then Tiana Taylor was like, I didn't know Kanye could produce R&B. Like, I know 808s is an R&B, sort of an R&B. But man, is he producing the mess out of that thing. 7 strong tracks, which I think Rivals is just as good at, if not better, as the Jay-Z Beyonce thing, because that's like 22 tracks.
Yeah, they haven't got a whole bunch of love as much I think that they had expected.
They should have made a 7-track album. Like they literally, that's the message. Because if you think about it, if you think about that album, what you like, there are definitely, without a doubt, 7 amazing tracks on that album. The first song, Summers, I think is like amazing. It's great. It features them both really well, right? There are 7 songs on that album that are killer. And they should have just followed everybody and just dropped 7 songs. And they want to step on everybody and do 22. And then, because there's a couple of ones that are like, they're sort of repetitive. Yeah. Like you felt the beat was the same, you know.
Well, there's been this conversation, and then you tell me do you think that artists are dropping too much music though now?
Nah.
Compared to And so we were just recently caught up in this debate about that. Folks are just dropping too much music. They have too much access to streaming.
It's bullshit.
So you want the music to continue on.
I think that's complete bullshit that artists are dropping. I think, and that was a debate that people talked about with Prince, like in later years. It's not what it. And I was like, he's just trying to find us the different sound. Like he's trying to find what's the future, and he's just exploring. And then a lot of the stuff he was doing is just the stuff he was interested in doing. And it wasn't interesting to the audience, but it didn't matter. Like Prince was at some point just making music for himself. This is the way he just wanted the funk this way. Prince always came from a funk background. Yeah. So a lot of that, the newer stuff was just real funk, and it's just almost electronic funk. It wasn't like always a live instrument. It had a certain thing that he was doing consistently. I don't believe that artists can release too much music. I think that's just crazy.
Yeah, that's been like this huge debate recently, man.
Like I wish Biggie was in this era. Like imagine if Biggie got to release. Was just releasing shit, like getting producers to release it, and he couldn't because he was in the era like they were like, especially that particular era. They're like, nah, you drop in 14 songs and you're charging $36 for that CD. That double CD. That was like a $42 double CD.
I'm paying for that joke.
You know what I mean? Like if Biggie, I can imagine if Biggie was like, yo, send me these 10 trap producers, send me this. Kanye, send me this. You send me this. Ninth Wonder, you send me this. Like he's getting all these people, and he was like, all right, I'm gonna go. Somebody's gonna work on his computer, and I'm gonna go in here for like 3 weeks, and then when I come out, I'm gonna release like 50 songs. And y'all either like it or you don't, but I don't care. Boom. Like that would have been, how great would Tupac would have been, if he was in this era, he could work with all these different producers, and he not worried about making no money. Like that's a freedom. There's a weird freedom. It's like, because you now are not trying to figure out what the audience, you're not trying to think about making a classic. You're just making music.
Well, that's why I like, shout out to my homeboy Chance from Chicago. I mean, same thing. I just want to put out good music. I want to go on a different route. And then I want to work with who I want to work with, and I want to expose these other. There's a lot of new, young energy, but man, you and I can go on forever, brother. Forever. I just want to just thank you for coming on Sound Bombing, man.
Thank you for having me.
You have been a blessing. And then, you're so well rounded, not only just about the music, just as an artist, because a lot of times we in this world that we're in, we sort of pigeonhole that we do this, not only just opinion, but strong truths about sort of where you are, being comfortable in your skin, and also being a voice for Black men all over the country. I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, I think Black men, we're just in this very interesting space. I've been arguing with my sister friends all over the country, and I'm like, this Me Too movement, I think I tell Black men, you got to engage in these conversations because it's really important that you hear what these sisters are saying about Me Too. But I also been saying at the end of this Me Too thing is another thing that Black men and Black women have to sit and have conversations about where we're going to be. And I say that in the sense where we need to get to a space where we agree to be someplace so that our children can enjoy relationships with each other in a way that we're not enjoying relationships with each other. Because I really want Black men and Black women to get to a place of healing and comfort with each other And that doesn't mean that we're always going to be in a relationship with each other in terms of romantic relationship, but we need to be in a place. I would love for us to be in a place where all sisters felt like, even if my baby daddy don't have my back, but if that black man down the street, he got my back. You know what I mean? Like I would love to be, and I would love for black men to feel the same way. Like, okay, you know, like I feel like if there's a sister in the room, she has my back.
Well, I think the only way that's going to happen, man, is we have to control that narrative, and I don't.
But we have to talk to each other too. I
gotta
think
have a conversation. We got to talk about.
We got to talk. We got to hear each other.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that that people feel that I feel like we're defensive.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I feel like just as a brother, I think we get in these conversations and we get really defensive, and I feel like we don't really have to be, because I think we can hear what sisters are saying. And we don't always have to internalize what they're saying to us. We can hear it and let those things be said, and let the being said and that being hearing lead to a place of healing. Because I think brothers want to express these strong feelings to sisters and feel like the sense of aggrievement and so on and so forth. But I think that's not the space of healing for us. I think the space of healing for us as black men is when we talk to each other. Because I think that gives us the strength to hear what the sisters have to say and not feel defensive and not feel like I gotta react. when I was a kid, or I know this dude and his sister, she dogged him, it's like, nah, sisters say something, just listen. Let's get to a place of listening and being comfortable with that. That's in a weird way, and this may sound sexist, but I think part of being a man is just you have the strength to just listen to stuff, and you don't have to internalize. It doesn't have to be about you. She could say all black men, and it is not about you. And I think when we get to that place, I think we're doing that not for our lifetime, but we're really doing that to set our kids up. Because if we can set our kids up to love each other and support each other. So it's not about us. I think it's about, if we think about them and what we want for them, let's set that up.
Well, that is a great way to end the interview, brother. Again, I appreciate you. How can folks get in contact with you? Website, email? What's the best way to?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at CineClass. I'm on Twitter on CineClass, CineClass. You can follow our podcast, Back of the Theater. On Twitter, it's Backseat Theater. My homeboy, Menelik Mumba 50. I'm kind of laying off Facebook. I'm about to close all my Facebook situations. And I don't do a lot of back and forth on Twitter, but on Instagram, I support people. If I see something interesting, I like, what they doing. And then, I just put whatever up for myself, stuff about my family, really basic stuff. You're not gonna see me post a lot about my work on Instagram, which to the detriment of my team, that drives them nuts. Mm-hmm. But I just, we live these fake social media lives, and I've been saying, look, I'm trying to live an authentic social media life. And sometimes that means I can't tell you what's really going on in my life. So I just don't say nothing, because, I don't go around telling you what's going on in my life in real life. So why should I present something kind of inauthentic on social media?
Well, we're glad you came on here, brother, and been super authentic. Thank you for joining us at Sound Bombing. You've been
absolutely
amazing.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Participant, man, learned a lot about you. Continue much success.
Yes, sir.
Sound Bombing is about healing. And I think the words and the message you said, I think people will definitely resonate.
I hope so.
With it. So I appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Wish you much success.
You too, sir.
All right, peace.